Hello and welcome back for our second Q&A here on Creators Chat. This week we've got the question, if you had to recommend 3 things to study to improve your art, what would they be? Just 3.
Okay, cool. I had to think about this one in advance because I was like...
I did give her a little warning.
Yeah, this is needed. So I have 3 ready. Okay,
there we go.
The absolute number 1 is fundamentals. It doesn't matter what kind of art you want to be doing, what kind of things you want to be drawing. Fundamentals are just universal. So things like accurately drawing, good values, perspective, those things are absolutely key. I'm a firm believer that you need to know the rules in order to know how to break them without just destroying everything. So really taking the time to kind of be humble and be a student and accept that we'll always be learning the fundamentals is absolutely key. And that was the biggest thing that completely changed my artwork from being to being functional.
Right.
Was that I just never paid attention to the fundamentals before and my work really suffered for it. So you don't have to want to be an academic painter to get something from it. Fundamentals are just great for everybody, I think.
Yeah.
The second one is kind of more to do with research. If you really want to improve your art, I found that a lot of that came from understanding what kind of work I actually wanted to be doing. I spent a very long time trying to force my work into a mold that I felt I needed to do. I could see the kind of path to success that other people have followed very clearly, and I wanted really hard to follow that, kind of the easy, well-trodden path. And it was making me miserable and it was holding my work back. It is scary kind of admitting to it and being like, I don't want to do this well-trodden path, I don't want to walk it. But doing that and really taking time to study the kind of work that I was interested in doing, to study my own kind of process and see which bits I was enjoying and latching onto those, which bits I wasn't enjoying and throwing them out. That was a huge thing in improving my work, weirdly. You'd think it would be kind of irrelevant, but actually that was one of the big improvements of mine, was just having the courage to admit the things I liked and understanding what it was I was trying to do with my artwork. So that'd be number 2. And number 3 is kind of learning about yourself and business and basically all the things that are going to kind of gear you up towards success and happiness.
Right.
I feel like most of the things that I have learned that have improved my art are not anything to do with physically learning how to draw. I feel like of all the things I have learned, most of it's going on up in here and it's got nothing to do with what's happening with my hand. I've learned the things that kind of get me motivated. I've learned the things that people like seeing me doing. All of these things that are kind of steering me down a path towards success. Learning to eradicate the things that make me miserable.
Right.
All of those kinds of things about success and happiness in life generally is obviously kind of related to my second point, but that's more to do with my work. This is more to do with life and taking care of yourself.
Right.
That has been pivotal for me, understanding my own work too. I produce much better work when I'm happy and healthy and trust the process than when I'm just kind of blindly like, I've got no idea what makes me happy, no idea what makes me healthy. The difference between those 2 states is wild.
That's good.
So those 3
like
things.
That.
And
So
you?
what are they again?
All right, so fundamentals, understanding what work you want to be producing, and understanding how to be happy and successful in life.
Nice. That's good. I think a lot of people just don't focus on the life and business side of things.
I feel like people were
especially the life
very
side
tuned
of
into
things.
work.
Yeah, people forget the psychological aspect of, believe it or not, when you're depressed, you're probably not going to make very much or very good art. Just because that's a bigger hurdle than actually learning how to draw an apple.
It's easy to assume that if your work is not making you happy or your work is not good, it's because your work is like an independent unit functioning away from everything else in your life. And quite frankly, even just the act of realizing that you don't have to rush a piece of artwork and make your work go from crap to amazing with 0 studying in between. Sometimes I think that life is a really massively overlooked factor in terms of improving your artwork. You just tend to think it's an independent unit, nothing to do with what else you're doing in life. But actually they are very interconnected. Art is very personal. The motivation required to make art is very hugely dependent on how your life is going more generally. So I think that was one surprising one to me when I discovered it. I was like, shocker. But it was a big one.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
So for me, my three would be sort of a way to focus on, I guess, more of your first point of fundamentals and how I think people should learn them. So my general approach for teaching people art is to focus on the art side of things. And obviously I like talking about the other stuff, but as far as the art itself goes, which will solve a lot of your like business and marketing problems that I think people struggle with later. If you have phenomenal art, then all the other problems get a little bit easier, except for the life problems. They don't get that much easier. But as far as focusing on how to study art and how to improve art, typically how I tell people to break it down is into thirds, which is why I have an easy answer for this one.
Yes.
And the first third is spend about a third of your time doing master studies when you're starting out. So focus on sort of what came before you, what's already out there, what's already done. And this is a really, really important one, and actually applies really to any field. I found this when I was writing my book, is that I had this breakdown of time, and I thought it was just applied to artists because, this was my thing on how to learn art. But actually, as it turns out, you can kind of apply these similar lessons no matter whether you're learning music or writing or anything like that. Really, you're just focusing on excellent executions that are already done and analyzing what is good about them, what's bad about them, what you like about them, what you don't like, everything about them, and learning how to reproduce those. Try to write an essay in Hemingway style and then try writing one in Dickens style and see how the essay differs.
Yeah.
And so same goes for art. Do tons and tons of master studies. They will undoubtedly teach you lots of stuff about art. I've never done a master study where I didn't learn something. So you're just bound to learn. And so that's my first. The second one is to study from life. Study from stuff around you, study from your current existence. And of course, obviously in art, this comes down to doing figure drawing, doing still life, doing self-portraits, doing landscape painting. And study from life and nature as much as possible. Obviously, this isn't as easy for some people as it is for others, depending on where you're at and what you have access to. So honestly, photographs do actually serve a pretty good purpose there. There's a lot of good photographic reference out there that you can look at and study, and actually does a pretty good job. It's not quite perfect because it's not translating 3D into 2D, but to be frank, most of the time you're doing illustration work, you're taking 2D and making more 2D.
Let's be honest.
So it's not as bad as it used to be. It's kind of like the people that when digital art came out, they were like, you can't start out doing digital art. You have to learn traditionally and then do digital. And that was the like stereotype for a long time. And like when I started out, that was the stereotype. That nobody could like start with digital. Like you'd develop all sorts of terrible, evil habits and you'd be a failure forever. Same goes for people studying photographs. They'd be like, well, you're always going to just paint terribly if you start out with photographs. It's not exactly the case. No. So don't be too ashamed if you've got to study, mountains from photographs because you live in the middle of the city and you have no mountains anywhere. So it's fine. So that's my second of the three. So first is masters, second is life/photos. And the last one is actually to do your own thing, to do imaginative work. This is one that I actually think people screw up with pretty frequently. Yeah, exactly. We all go through phases where we don't prioritize it as much as we should. Yeah. It's a real problem. And if you look at super academic programs that really teach people how to draw, and they're doing constant master studies, constant figure drawing, and then the people can't draw anything on their own. They're given a blank piece of paper and asked to draw something, and they have nothing because they just haven't been practicing it.
Yep.
And it is its own skill. It's an entirely different skill, learning how to be creative. Given a blank piece of paper and no assignment, what do you do? And that's a skill that I think people need to be practicing pretty early on. And while it might not be a perfect third when you're just starting out, you might want to spend 10 or 20% of your time actually doing that and 40% of your time doing each of the other ones. It's still an essential thing that I think people should do all the time. And it also gives you context for those other studies you're doing, where when you sit down and you try to draw a figure from imagination and it looks god awful, which it always does.
100%.
Every single time it looks terrible. But by trying to do that, you realize, well, I have no idea what an arm looks like. I've drawn them before, but actually, if I have nothing to look at, I have no idea how to do this.
Yep.
And so that gives you something to go back to when you're doing those other studies to focus on and to learn from, that you know what you need to learn. And then knowing that you're going to have to pull from that memory, you're going to focus more on actually memorizing that stuff
Yeah, it's true.
and getting it more ingrained into your head. So for me, my thirds are master studies, life, and imagination. And those are my three. What are yours again?
Oh gosh, don't try and make me remember this.
Fundamentals.
Fundamentals.
I'll help you.
Learning what it is you like doing,
Yeah.
and learning how to take care of your life.
That's good.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
good. That was good.
Thank you. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours too, hun. They're great.
Go team.
Alrighty.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.